It's not external circumstances, not fate, not other people. It is your mind where everything truly begins. Every choice you make, every emotion you feel, every result you are living with, all are direct consequences of the way you think. Thinking is not just a vague stream of thoughts floating in your head. It is a silent yet powerful blueprint that draws out every detail of the life you walk through each day. The truth is, you do not react to reality. You react to how your mind interprets that reality. And right there, you already hold more power than you realize. People often try to change their lives by seeking tools outside themselves. A new job, a new relationship, a new environment. But if the old mind is still running in the background, you will carry the same old habits, beliefs, and fears into the very place you thought was a fresh start. Real change does not happen when you move houses, switch companies, or replace a partner. It only happens when you change the person who talks in your head every day. That is the starting point of every action, every decision, and every belief you've lived with as if it were absolute. Thinking is the first force that shapes reality. What you think doesn't stop at awareness, it transforms into emotion. Emotions direct your physiological responses, energy state, behavior, and outcomes. A negative thought doesn't just make you sad for a few minutes. It can disrupt your nervous system, release cortisol, reduce your ability to focus, damage relationships, affect your health, and even determine the direction of a day, a year, or a lifetime. Every thought is a biological command. And that's no longer a theory, it's a fact, supported by neuroscience and modern psychology. The question is no longer, am I thinking positively, but rather, am I thinking in the right direction? Because you could think positively all day and still be stuck in a faulty pattern. Effective thinking isn't about painting life in rosy colors. It's about facing the way your mind operates, dissecting the layers of programming installed by family, society, memories, and pain. Most of what you think isn't your own. It's inherited, copied, or reactive echoes from the past. You think it's you, but in truth, it's a version that's been programmed. And because of that, true awakening doesn't come from a big life event. It arrives the moment you pause and ask, who is doing the thinking in my head? When you dare to ask that, the door to freedom begins to crack open. No more autopilot living, no more unconscious reactions. You begin to consciously redesign your thought content instead of being led by the echoes of things you've never questioned. And the conscious mind is not a perfect mind. It is a mind that knows it is thinking and chooses its thoughts with awareness. When you change the way you think, the world doesn't transform instantly, but everything around you starts responding differently. Opportunities you once overlooked become clearer. Relationships that felt stuck begin to open up. Limitations you believed were fixed start to dissolve. Not because the world suddenly favors you more, but because you've changed your perspective. And through that new lens, you start acting differently. And it is new actions that create new results. Not some magical law of attraction, but the resonance between consciousness, emotion, behavior, and reality. Your mind is not a storage unit of data. It is a machine that continuously generates reality. Each thought is a blueprint. Each emotion is a chemical directive. Each reaction is a habit imprinted in your nervous system. And if you don't steer this current, no matter how many skills you learn or how many plans you have, you'll end up back at the same point with the same outcomes. Because reality isn't determined from the outside. It is born from within you. Many people ask, what should I do to change my life? The answer doesn't lie in what you do, but in what you are thinking. Because every action is the result of a thought behind it. If you act from lack, you multiply lack. If you act from fear, you create a reality full of control and limitations. But if you act from trust, from clarity, from a mature perspective, you don't just change the outcome, you are changing the person you are becoming. And that is the true essence of transformation. Every day you have tens of thousands of thoughts. Most of them are repetitive. If you don't filter them, your mind will operate on autopilot. And that autopilot is often a product of the past. But you are not the past. You are not the old story. You are the one rewriting each line of that script through the way you think in the present. And you can start at any moment. It only takes one new thought, and if repeated long enough, it will become a new neural pathway, a new trajectory for the future. Your mind does not need to be fixed. It needs to be guided. Not because it's broken, but because it is blindly loyal to what was once programmed. But the moment you reclaim the command, everything outdated begins to be challenged. Old reaction patterns become more visible. You begin to distinguish between your true voice and the echoes of the past. And you start choosing differently. That's when you start being a victim of the mind and become its leader. No one can change your life until you change the way you think. No tool is more powerful than a mind that is governed with awareness, and no one can do that for you, except you. Everything begins there. Not tomorrow, not when things are more perfect, not when you feel ready, but right now, when you begin to change the way you talk to yourself. That is not motivation, that is awakening. Not every thought that appears in your mind is true, and the voice that echoes in your head each day is not your true self. It's time to separate the two, because if you don't, you'll spend your whole life as a victim of the thing called I think. But thoughts are products. You create thoughts. It's a biological function. It runs non-stop, drawing from old memories, past experiences, things others have said, images you've seen, unresolved fears. Every thought that pops into your head is the result of a network of neural connections, etched repeatedly over many years, sometimes from childhood, from moments you were too young to understand, but sensitive enough to remember. And because they come from within you, you assume they are you. But that is one of the greatest illusions we carry through life. You are not the whisper that tells you I'm not good enough. You are not the repeated phrase I'll never be truly loved. You are not the anxiety that arises when you start something new. You are the one hearing those sentences, and that makes all the difference. Thoughts are content. You are awareness, the one observing that content. When you realize this, you are no longer a puppet in the play of memories and unconscious programming. You begin to reclaim command. Many people live their entire lives told by invisible voices in their heads, never stopping to ask, did I actually choose this thought? They let old stories dictate present reactions. Someone who has been rejected in the past will carry the fear of abandonment into every relationship. Someone who was once belittled will react strongly to any feedback, as if it threatens their identity, not because they're weak, but because they've never been taught how to distinguish between thoughts and truth. The problem isn't what you think, it's how much you believe what you think. And it is that belief that creates the reality you live in. When you forget that you can choose your thoughts, you fall into automatic reactions. Everything feels personal. Every word becomes an attack. Every failure is seen as proof of worthlessness. But when you take a step back and observe your thoughts, like text scrolling across a screen, you open up an inner space. A space where you don't have to react immediately, but can choose how to respond with intention. No one ever taught you that there's a space between stimulus and response, and within that space lies your freedom. The freedom to see a thought without being ruled by it. The freedom to replace a negative inner phrase with one that is healthier. The freedom to create a new perspective, one that is deeper, more honest, and more supportive for your journey. And that is when you stop living as a copy of your past and start becoming a self that is being recreated from the inside out. Make no mistake, detaching from your thoughts does not mean denying your emotions or ignoring what's happening. On the contrary, it's the act of someone taking full responsibility. When you no longer identify with every thought, you begin to clearly see the unconscious beliefs that have been driving you, and from there you truly gain the opportunity to heal, to choose, and to change. No longer reacting, now designing. No longer saying, this is just how I am, but instead, I can become a higher version of myself. One of the most powerful actions you can take in a day is to pause, close your eyes, and observe what your mind is saying. No judgment, no interference, simply observe, as if you were listening to someone else telling a story. And you'll be surprised by how many thoughts you didn't choose. Some thoughts repeat like a broken tape. Some ideas come from others, but have taken root in your mind as if they were truth. But once you see them, they no longer control you. You are handed back the key. Every person has the ability to observe their inner world. You don't need a degree. You don't need complex skills. You only need presence. You only need the courage to pause in the middle of a thought storm and ask yourself, is what I'm thinking actually true? Is it helpful? Does it come from my real values? And if the answer is no, then you have the right to change it. Begin with a different question, a new affirmation, a new belief. The more you practice this, the more you'll become separate from unconscious repetition. Old reactions will lose their grip. Old neural pathways will stop being reinforced. And you'll begin building a new mental map. One where awareness is the center, where you no longer live as a victim of thought, but as a guide that steers it in the direction you choose. Awakening is not some mystical, spiritual event. It is a simple yet courageous act to refuse to identify with every thought that passes through the mind, and from that moment you begin to live as your true self. The observer, the creator, the free one. You are not the critical voices in your head, not the recurring anxieties, not the echoes of the past. You are the one who hears all of that, and can choose what to keep and what to release. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who thinks, and that defines your true inner power. Every thought you hold in your mind is not merely a floating concept, but a biological command sent directly to your body. You think you're reasoning, but in truth you're programming. A single line of thought can trigger feelings of unease, cause your heart to race, your muscles to tense, and your immune system to suppress. Conversely, a hopeful, positive thought can relax the body, deepen the breath, and shift the nervous system into a state of restoration. Every thought, no matter how small, carries a physical consequence. The mind doesn't just generate emotions, it gradually reshapes your biology over time. What's more striking is that this process occurs continuously, whether you're aware of it or not. Every time you respond negatively to an email, a glance, a memory, you're not just feeling it, you're transmitting a chemical message throughout your body, creating a repeatable physiological cascade. Adrenaline spikes, cortisol is released, digestion halts, and your defense mechanisms are activated. And if you remain in that state long enough, your brain starts memorizing it as a default. Not because you want to be anxious, but because you've trained your body to become familiar with anxiety. People often think emotions are natural, spontaneous. But emotions don't just appear. They are activated by how you interpret the world. You don't feel hurt because someone is silent. You feel hurt because you think they're ignoring me. You don't feel angry because you were rejected. You feel angry because you think I'm not valuable. The same event can elicit completely different emotional responses in two people simply because each person assigns a different meaning to it. And it's that thought, not the situation itself, that becomes the first factor shaping the emotion. Emotion is the biological echo of a thought. It is your internal reaction to what you believe is true. Every time you think, I'm going to fail, your body responds as if you are failing. The body can't distinguish between reality and imagination. It only responds to what you believe is real. So if you live in a prolonged stream of negative thoughts, you won't just feel mentally drained. You are deepening a self-destructive biological pattern. Negative thinking doesn't just lower your quality of life. It corrupts the entire internal operating system of your physiology. And the reverse is also true. A right intentional thought can generate a whole new favorable biological environment. When you think, I can handle this, your body responds by increasing dopamine, the neurotransmitter that boosts motivation and focus. When you think, I am loved, I am safe, oxytocin is released, fostering a sense of connection, trust, and hormonal stability. This is not vague, positive thinking. This is measurable neuroscience. You're not just creating feelings. You're actively reprogramming your brain's chemistry. If you understand this, you'll become more mindful of every stream of thought passing through your mind. Because every thought is a drop of color poured into the bloodstream you carry. Every thought is a brick laid into the foundation of your emotional state. And if emotions are repeated long enough, they become your default mental climate. You can live in a prolonged winter of anxiety simply because you've never learned how to warm your inner landscape. And you can also enter a space of inner calm, not by escaping reality, but by reconstructing how you think about it. Imagine someone stuck in traffic. One person thinks, everything is always against me. Immediately, heart rate increases.